Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and over the last year or so, I've been changing the way that I prep my sessions and do my world building, and I wanted to muse on that a little bit in a nice little ramble stream. Let's roll it. Okay, so I am a technophile. I love technology. I love using it. I love trying to integrate it into different areas of my life. It's just something that I've always done. And exploring new kinds of technology is something that really excites me. I love to unpack new tools and see what I can do with them, integrating them into the way that I do things without becoming overbearing. This is kind of one of my great desires in life to figure out. However, as much as I have enjoyed using technology, and I do use like a campaign manager called Scabbard to keep track of my lore. I've used Scrivener before that, which is a wonderful writing app. Sometimes I've used Obsidian to try to keep track of different stuff. I always have kind of missed the feel of just writing something down and having that type of experience with it. And I do that a little bit with my iPad because when I go to a lecture or go to a seminar and I want to take notes, I will sit there with notes or freeform open and I'll just sit there and write with my Apple Pencil, and I'll create my own version of the really, I guess the only way to call it is deranged mind map in order to keep track of my thoughts as I reflect on what is being taught. And it's something that I really appreciate about that handwriting experience. And I've always wanted, for the last couple of years, to try to bring that to my campaign prep or my session prep. There's been a couple problems, though. First, it's very hard to keep track of things. So if I want to reference an NPC later, how do I do that? I can't just do that writing in a notebook because I have to remember where it is, and that's harder than it sounds. And also, I'm left-handed. And while I used yellow legal pads in college, which flip from the top to keep myself from having to push down the fold in the notebook all the time, it did not do anything to overwhelm or overcome the permanent ink stain that left-handed writers have when they're using either pencils or pens. Semi-permanent because it's faded after being away from college and writing with pens for the better part of 3 decades. Weeks, that's a little rough to admit. Anyway, so I wanted to get back into handwriting. I did like writing on my iPad, except for the fact that it's very slippy. This is a glass surface. The pencil is a plastic nib. And so it was just, I would write and it'd go all over the place because I didn't have very good motor control on that. And I did put one of those paper kind of feel screen protectors on it, a rock paper pencil, for about a year. And it didn't create enough drag for me to really be enjoyable. So I decided to look elsewhere. Last year when I was planning for sabbatical, realized I was going to be doing a lot of reading. I wanted to get a little bit of an updated reader, trying to get away from my Nook. I never wanted to get a Kindle. And so I opted to pick up this, which is the Cobra Libra Color, the pocket edition here. And that's really cool because it's got a stylus, as I drop that on the ground. So it's got a stylus and it writes on the page very well. The other cool thing is that it lets you actually write on ebooks. So I was writing on the books that I was reading on my sabbatical, which was a lot of fun. And as I was doing a lot of that writing in my ebooks and taking some notes and things that I was thinking, I began to use the notebooks feature a little bit more. And I started doing my note reading or writing for my sessions using my more, and here, I can actually have an overhead camera here so I can show it later. But I was using my kind of flowcharty concept or thinking that I used to do for my college classes or when I'm sitting in a lecture now. And that was really kind of fun. The other cool thing about this is I actually can search my handwritten text. So if I wanted to refer back to a previous NPC, I could actually search. And it did a pretty good job of recognizing even my left-handed scrawl, which was really kind of interesting. The iPad does that as well. And I actually think that my e-ink things do it a little bit better. But one of the problems with this is it's just too cramped. It took too many pages. I would have to like be really careful about how big the boxes were. Putting notes and margins was next to impossible because everything's cramped on this little size screen here. So I wanted something a little bit bigger. I knew I wanted e-ink because it was a very nice experience. I thought the writing on even on this little plastic screen with the, it's not really an afterthought, but it's not the primary function of this reader, was actually very pleasant. The pen may be a little bit light. It actually, one of the cool things is that it actually has an eraser on the bottom, which I thought that was nice for muscle memory to erase stuff as I clicking that shut a lot. But I wanted something that was going to be a little bit bigger for a couple of reasons. One, it would allow me to write more and arrange it a little bit better, be able to put in like margin notes. If case I looking at the notes and someone does something interesting, I can write a margin note down, or I could just, put a side on like a character's personality over on the margin. So I wanted something bigger, but also because I could put the PDFs from my TTRPGs on there. So, the iPad, perfect size for that. I can throw a thing on and it almost looks like a printed page. I didn't want to quite go that big with e-ink. I wanted something a little lighter. So a 10-inch screen seemed to be the sweet spots for that. I did debate whether or not I wanted to go with black and white or color. There's trade-offs for that with the e-ink. The black and white, obviously you're not getting color, but also it's brighter because you don't have an overlay layer that's kind of translating all the color information. So you almost always have to use a front light on the color e-ink readers. But I did opt to go for that just because I thought the books would look a little bit better, and they do. So what I ended up doing is I ended up picking up this. So this is a Boox Note Air 5C. This is the newest version. I would have picked up a 4C last year, but I was didn't quite know if I wanted to go with that or not. I wanted some practice with e-ink, which is why I went with the Kobo device. Let's get my coffee thing out of there. And this is really nice. Couple things that I don't like about it. Let me make sure I'm in frame here. Put it up. So there's a couple things that I don't like about it. The first is this, and it's the cover that comes with it. It's not the device, it's the cover that comes with it. I got this as a package deal. So I got the cover for $10 more than just the base device. So pretty cool. But I don't like this. I just don't. Because it's removable, and suddenly now I have to figure out what to do with this. And I don't like this at all. The other thing I don't like is this floppy origami thing. So, and there's a reason for this. So the problem for me is that I'm left-handed. So you can see how I'm opening it this way instead of this way. So if I was opening the case this way, I would have my hand on the floppiness. You can see that I have a to-do list up there. I'll get rid of that. But I would have my hand where the floppy thing is when it was flipped over. So it wouldn't be flopping over. But because I hold it like this, when I'm reading, that flops down. So that's really, it's really annoying. And I don't do it in this landscape orientation very much. So it doesn't really do much for me. The other thing that I didn't like at first, or two things about the pen that I didn't like at first, is it falls off here. That cap is a little bit of an issue, but I figured out a solution, is the clip here. So now it's very neat because it looks like a pen. It's a little light. I might want it a little heavier. This is a Wacom EMR setup, so I could actually go get anything that's compatible with that Wacom standard. I get some really nice pens with it. But one of the things that came out, and this came out in a lot of reviews that people had, is that this is capped, and I actually have to work to get it off now. That's kind of an interesting thing. So when this arrives, and I'll just put it here, this comes off, and there's a magnet there that holds it on, but it's not very strong. And what was happening is you take that off to get to your spare nibs. So I'll put that up there, your spare nibs. But a couple of times I was just sitting there using it or pulled it off the back of the device, and it would fall off, and my nibs fell on the floor. I almost lost them. And I thought that was terrible. I thought that was a terrible design. And then I made a comment on one of the YouTube channels, and I said, this is something I'm struggling with. They said, well, here, do a slate twist, and then it stays on really well. And you can see I almost had problems getting it off because I had done that slight twist. And that's the setup of it. There's actually a marker here that shows you how to do it. And that's not anywhere in the instructions for the device. So a little bit of a wasted opportunity there with the instructions. And then this cap was a big issue because, again, it's something I have to deal with. And if this clip was going to fall off all the time, couldn't really use it. But now that I had that dealt with, I can just stick it there. So it's not as much of a problem as I thought at the beginning. Still not my favorite thing. I don't like being handed things and now suddenly it's my problem to deal with. It's something that I really dislike. So that's kind of the setup. So that's my journey. I went from iPad, trying to handwrite on that, a little too slick. Went to the Kobo, very, very nice experience. A little bit it's slow because it's designed primarily as an e-reader. It's not really a productivity tablet. But it was a little bit too cramped. I did like the eraser on the back of the device or back of the stylus. I thought writing with it was fine. Resolution wasn't terribly great. There wasn't a whole lot of AI like search features on it or anything. But then I picked up this as my evolution of that. So this is now kind of my third iteration of using a digital device in order to handwrite my notes for my TTRPGs. And I do still use this because I use the Freeform app to plan my sessions. And I can set up different scenes. I can like paste in like the creature stats and throw all the stuff in there and just write down like track hit points and initiative just on the screen during the event, during a session. So that's actually really helpful. And I could do that with my Boox Note Air 4C, but there's a couple of things I don't like about it. I'll talk about that in a second. So let me open up the Boox. I'm going to make sure that I'm in frame again just so you can see, and I'll get it to the base setup. So give me 1 second here. All right. So why did I go with the Boox instead of like a Mantis Supernote, which apparently has the best handwriting experience of any of the e-ink tablets? That seems to be the universal opinion because they have a kind of a gel top on it that's self-healing that really makes it feel like you're writing on paper. Or the Remarkable, which is a much more, like, it's a very focused device. Remarkable 2 was a couple years old by the time I was looking at it. They do have an update that's out now. Didn't have a front light. I'm old, tired eyes. I kind of want to be able to read at night. And their color one was like almost the cost of like a decent iPad, which for something that was not going to be a wide productivity tool, that's something that I really struggled with. The Manta was a little bit more reasonably priced, but it didn't have a front light. That was kind of one of the things that really gave me pause for that. And the Boox devices, they were really cool. Front light, you can get it black and white or color. I almost went for the black and white. The reason why I got the color one is because it's got expandable storage, because TTRPG PDFs can be pretty big. So that was it, and a little bit more RAM, but that's needed to drive the color, so it's not like a huge speed difference. But this is also a full Android tablet. So if I wanted to, I could turn this into a full productivity tool. I could throw all my Android apps on it that are equivalent of the things that I use on my iPad, put a markdown editor on it, put some kind of writing software on it. I could put all my browsers, I could put Discord on it and keep track of things like that. And there is an appeal to that. So, because this is not just my writing tablet, which justifies the cost a little bit. I can have my Bible software on it for my sermon, so I can go into that workflow. If I wanted to do email, I could do that. But I also have the option of keeping it separated from the rest of my workflow as well. So I have options there, which I like, which is a very nice feeling. So I don't have my like Google Calendar set up on this, even though I'm trying to get away from that and use iCloud anyway. I don't have any email set up on this. I don't have Discord turned on it. It literally is for writing and reading. That's how I have it set up. Although if I want to, I can go to a web page and access my files in iCloud and things like that. So a good mix of best of both worlds, and it does have a front light so I can read it at night, which is very cool. So when you log into your Boox the first time, it's going to look like this. There are some features that I turned on a little bit later, so I Have the ability to turn up and down the front light strength. Also really cool is that reflected light hits your eyes differently than projected light. So it's less damaging to your retina, which is nice. I also have the volume. I can slide and turn the volume up and down over here. I keep it muted because I don't want, the point is that I don't want this buzzing at me all the time. So you have your notes. You can see that I have my 2 Numenera PDFs for Discovery and Destiny that are there. I also have Tales of Argosa put in. I'll show you what those look like in a section or a second. And I have my notes. Let's see if I can get to a decent notes here without revealing something that's coming up in one of my adventures. You might have seen the to-do list, which is just keeping track of me just manually writing down when I'm doing things and when I want to have them done by instead of using that computer. There's something nice about just filling in that dot by myself. It might be me remembering all the Scantron things I did when I was a kid, but you know, that's it. And these are my notes, and I even hand wrote a sermon last week, which was kind of fun. I have my Numenera notes, I have my Argosa notes. Can't really show, and I'm not showing you my journal because my thoughts. Can't really show you Numenera because I have an adventure coming up for that. I don't want to give anything away. So what I'll do is I'll see if I can open up an Argosa note for you. I have some EcclesiaCon stuff there. Session prep, world lore. Let's see what we got. Or session notes. I do have session notes. I did all my stuff in my prep, so I'm kind of stuck in that. You can see it's a little slow. This is not an LCD display. It's not designed to be fast. It's designed to get where you want to work and to do it and then offer you a little bit of extra functionality. That's the setup. Let me go to world lore. We'll talk about Rektok, which is a dwarven city under the mountain. You can tap to go to different pages. One of the cool things is that you can set up a table of contents, which is really cool. So I wanted to show up a couple of different places that characters could go if they wanted to do that. And so basically to set up a table of contents or put something in the table of contents, you click and you hold and you say add to outline. And then whatever you type in, it adds to the outline over here. So it's easy to go through. You can also search your text. So I have this guy named Alton. We'll type that in. We'll see how well it recognizes my left-handed scratch. Sorry, I missed a key there because I'm typing when there's glare on the screen from where I'm looking. And I'll do a search. I'm pretty sure I did this before. I'm searching tags. Handwriting. Text search. There it goes. And it actually highlights it. So really cool. And it's pretty fast. Not as fast as like my iPad, but it is pretty fast. It's a lot faster than the Kobo tablet, which is really cool. But so it's pretty nice. And it shows you it in the page. Very cool stuff. One of the things I like about the notes, and you can see I kind of put that up there, is you can set up different pens. So this is kind of like the default pen. So that's not a setup. You can tap that and you can just set up, this is the pen that just changes, right? But if I like one of the pens, you can actually add it and put it over here. So I have different pens that I like the highlighter, my ballpoint. This is a fountain pen that I use in red for my subheadings. And it's really, really nice. There's a couple of note-taking apps on the iPad that do that. It's something I really appreciate because I'm not constantly going back and saying, no, I have to set up this one and I have to set up this one. That's something that I do not like in Apple Notes and in Freeform is that I can't preset a bunch of pens. It's like if I'm ballpoint pen, if I want to change it to blue, I always have to go into the palette and change it to blue or change it to red. And this I just blunk, I have that preset and it goes. Really, really cool. You can change the pages. There's always going to be some ghosting on an e-ink device. Boox has a really good refresh system. It takes care of a lot of it that I very much enjoy. And the toolbars that you have on the side and on the top are very much customizable. So if I want to put in a shape, I can tap that and bring up the shape thing, change the width and whatnot, change the fill if I want to. There's a fill thing, change the gestures. AI is a little bit of a misnomer because you think nowadays with AI, you think it's going to be data center and it's sending your data out. I air gapped the device and did my handwriting transcription and shape detection and scribble to erase without any connection to any sort of internet, and it all worked. So it's, I guess Apple called it a few years ago, it's more like machine learning. So it's AI, but it's not like generative AI that you have on the internet. I don't think it's necessarily stealing all of your stuff. I do like lasso recognition. So I'm going to change to a different font, or a different pen. So there's the test. If I can scribble to erase, which works kind of well. I kind of liked my Kobo with the eraser on the back because of muscle memory, but that works okay. But select, and of course it doesn't work as soon as I put it on camera. Hold on. There we go. That was literally the first time I had that fail on camera. Pretty cool. So it selects it. You can change the color once you have it selected. You can move stuff around. You can rotate it. Very, very cool. You can change the size. It's neat stuff. You can add a link. So if you want to link something to another page, so say you have an NPC that you mentioned in the text, I select it. I want to mention this. So if you tap on that, you go to that page in the other notebook, and it will actually have a little thing, go back to where you were, and it will. It's really cool. You can add tags. But then you can also do, say I accidentally erase the thing, you can also do the generate the text. So here's the AI, I put a calendar note in, but here's the AI. It will recognize it and it turns it into the text. And you can see how fast it does. And it does not depend on the text being, or the device being on the internet. Really cool. As now I'm stuck in sticking my template. Stop it. There we go. I'm going to undo. Turn that into something. So let's erase that. There we go. Worked pretty good. So you can see that I have my notes up, and if I want to create my own bullet point, I can hold. It'll turn it into a circle. Tap out. If I want to do a fill, there it is. It fills as green. Very, very cool stuff. So you can step back to the artificial. If I want to draw a box, come on, work. What's going on here? There we go. Literally has not happened to me before. But if I want to draw a box and hold, it'll point it into a box. iPads do this. Pretty much everything does it at this point. It's basically standard. I can erase it by stroke. Go back to my pen. It's very simple. It's very nice, and it's so light and small. I do like to have it folded back because this felt gives me a little bit extra grip when I'm doing stuff. Let me make sure I have this in frame again. I should put things on the table. Very, very cool. And the other neat thing is that there's a couple of ways that you can actually send this screen to a device. So the best way that I can think of, and I'm not going to demonstrate this right now, but I'll explain it to you. You go down to the control center. There's a thing called Boox Drop Screen. A couple of downsides to it, so I want to give a couple warning. If you are on the same LAN as the device you're trying to connect to, turning that on will give you a website and a port number that you can open up to that will do a really good job showing what you're writing on the screen or showing what you're doing on the screen. Very, very well. Couple of problems with it. The first being there's no security on it. So if someone is doing a port scan and finds your IP address and a port and goes, oh, that's interesting, they can be watching what you're doing. So just remember to turn it off, I guess. But it's really good for demos and stuff. It will also do screencasting to like Google, to like a Google Cast. And I actually have an app on my Mac that allows me to do that, called Air Server. Very small. I can make it, enlarge it a little bit. I actually think that the Boox Drop Screen works a little bit better. but I can just do it through casting, which is a little bit more secure, but I need a device and something else to go through instead of just a web browser. Works very, very cool. How does this function for me? I haven't not used it as a live session yet. I have used my Kobo. So at EcclesiaCon this year, I used this to keep track of all my hit points and interactions that the players were doing. Had my iPad open to keep track of the different encounters and to switch the information on screen as they moved into different areas. So I had two devices going, a little bit more complex than I want, to be honest, but it worked pretty well. And I could also keep things bookmarked in the PDF, so I didn't have to have them flopping through books all the time. If I had a question, open up the bookmark, there I go. So it's a kind of a best of both worlds by using the two tablets. What I like is that it tends to get out of the way. Even as I was saying, it's a little bit more complex to have the iPad and another device going. It feels more like I'm writing in a notebook, which is much less intrusive for people at the table. It's really, really cool. And I've kind of enjoyed it. I'm still working on my workflow. How do I break things down? You saw that because I don't have session notes for my last Tales of Argosa because I was just putting my session notes in my session prep. So that might be something I don't need that extra folder. I'm just going to put notes with the date and I can add that to my outline or put a keyword on it that says session note and I can actually bring that up then. So there's different things that I can do that'll allow me to use this in a way that much more works with my workflow, which is cool, along with it's easier on my eyes. It's got a front light. The writing with this feels so nice compared to my Apple Pencil. This feels more like, almost like marker, not marker, like a felt tip pen. A cross between that and a ballpoint pen. It certainly, when you first get it out, it certainly squeaks like it's a felt tip pen. That wears off really quick, and now I really enjoy writing with this pen. Very, very cool. I like how the device is very small. I enjoy that it's expandable. Let's show you the PDFs right now. So we'll bring Numenera up. Come on. You can see the colors are going to be muted, and I had to tweak the e-ink settings to make it look this good with the default settings. Let's go to progress. One thing I can't figure out is how to search. I know there's a way to do it, but they hide it. Oh, it's up here. I have to do too many taps in order to get to the search thing, which I don't like. But I can go through my progress. We'll go to the first page. So that looks pretty good. With the default settings, it was very dithered. It didn't look very good. This is a slower setting, but it works well for a PDF. I don't really care. But it looked really nice. I thought they did a good job with it. And it moves fast. Reasonable refresh. Every now and again, I have to do a manual refresh. It's a little dark too, but I can always, if I want to make it brighter, I can always brighten it up. You can see that flash as you change pages because I have it on a high quality setting. Very, very nice. So let's close this out. And let's go, and I want to open up Tales of Argosa, which is somewhere else. Here we go. I also have Pirate Borg on here. There's the new Cypher character rulebook. That's not optimized yet, so it has a hard time rendering it, so I'm not reading it on here. I'm doing that on my iPad. By the way, the new Cypher core book for characters looks really cool. But Tales of Argosa, I have it set up so the contrast is really high, so everything looks a little bit much, but it makes the thing very, very readable. And I have a lot of my bookmarks in it, so it keeps me moving forward, and I can switch between apps just like on Android. So I want to go back to my notes, I can do that. Again, it's slower than an LCD. Do not go in looking for LCD speed. It's going to work with you, so don't get frustrated with it. That's part of the trade-off of the device. I knew that going in. But man, it does a really nice job. Very nice job. So that's a little bit of my journey from typing things out on a computer to trying to do it on my iPad handwritten, to going to a small device, to going to a slightly larger device. It's really been an enjoyable experience. And I do enjoy handwriting stuff. I find it frees my brain a little bit and getting it away from the buzzing and the bips and all the things that are trying to get my attention. Just sitting down and handwriting it in a way that works for me as left-handed. Very, very cool. So if this is something that you're interested in, I invite you to go check out some videos about e-ink tablets or e-paper tablets, the pluses and the minuses, the trade-offs that you have to go through, and which systems are out there, because there's a surprisingly cool breadth of devices in this arena. Very, very cool. But I'm really enjoying the process. And as I move through some of my adventures, maybe I'll share a couple of my notebooks with people if you can read my left-handed scratch. So that's what I got going on. Coming up, I still got reviews of Redacted. I still got Shadow West. I still have Trash Sexy. I've got the Flowers of Algarab. And I also have another thing coming for Coriolis the Great Dark. Really, really cool. And Dark Space is also coming even as I work on my conversions for the Orshan incident. I am looking forward to bringing all of this to you folks. Until we see each other again, happy playing, everyone.